it gets so much better, and it's really hard to explain it if you haven't experienced it, but it really, really does. You know, things start happening all the way back in middle school, and at the time, you really don't understand exactly what they are until later in life. And it's really weird how small things can really creep back up on you. And when you get to a certain age, how you can look back and, it really does kind of blow your mind how things do change. You're always talking to your teachers and professors, and they're always telling you about how you have to be the change in people or how you have to change things. But they never really talk about how people can change you as a person, which is kind of a strange concept because I think it's a very strong one, and it's not really studied or taught in schools, and it's something that needs to be. I really do think. I mean, one of my professors, one of the best quotes I've ever heard from him that he was talking in class is that you are a product of everything that's happened to you. Whether you've done it to yourself, or someone has done it to you, or the environment, or, the cosmos, if you want to go that far, has done it to you. You are a product of what has occurred. And that being a concept, for the first time I've heard, really, really proves. I mean, it really does prove. You don't think it would, but it does prove, you know, how we are as a person and people and culture and species, and how we can change and form and shape people, because, that one smile or that one opening of a door can affect someone else's person, and it shapes in that way how they are, and they become a product, and that influences the product. However, not every person is going to be the product of a good environment or the positive experiences. And I think everyone really has a hard time figuring out that that is how things are supposed to be. You're supposed to have the negative and the positive. You're supposed to have the gray area and the gray matter and the confusion. Because if you don't have the confusion, then you don't know where you start and where you stop from. I had it a long time ago. Back when I didn't even know what, terms were and things like that. And I was told. I didn't learn. I was told these things. And I was told what they meant, and they're derogative and hateful things. And that I was one. People told me I was one. I didn't get to experience it myself. I didn't get to learn what it was. I was told. And that's something that should never happen. You should always have the freedom to explore what it is and really understand in your own personal way if it is a good thing or a bad thing, in your personal opinion. You should never be told what to think. You should only be told things to think about. Because if someone tells you what to think, then that's only going to be coming from one person. And if one person is telling the world what to think, then change never occurs. And change is one of the most important things that happens to a person. It's one of the most important things that happened to myself. I was bullied all through middle school and high school. I was the chubby one. I was the best friend, the popular girl, then I was the outcast, and then I was the punk, and then I was the emo, and then I was supposedly the goth. And all these labels and stereotypes never come with anything positive. Stereotypes never do. And it's something that has to be broken, and something that shouldn't be accepted by society. It's perfectly fine if you identify with something, but for someone to stereotype you or to label you, it's a negative experience and shouldn't occur. But yet, these are more things that create the product that you are and shape what you are at the time that you are now. And the odd thing is that no one ever really talks about the path and what you've had to do to get to the result that you are. They always talk about the beginning and the end. They never talk about the middle of what happens or anything like that, and that is something that needs to be talked about. I mean, it doesn't need to be told, it needs to be explored and explained and discovered, and no one should have to do it alone. They really shouldn't. I mean, it really shouldn't be up to anybody to be alone. It's not human nature, everyone wants to have somebody with them. And it's really hard to understand that, you know, when people are telling you these negative things and that you should or shouldn't be one thing or another. It's really hard for an individual to understand that they are okay when they're not accepted by somebody else. It took me years to understand that. It took me years to understand that if I accepted myself, it was okay. As long as that happened, that, it didn't matter if someone else thought, my hair was the right color or anything like that. And no one needs to be accepted. I mean, individuals is, what point out, examples and change in the world. And individuals is where it has to change. People that talk out and explain their own experiences. I was 18 before I finally decided that liking girls or thinking girls were pretty was okay. Even though I had friends that understood and accepted, it doesn't change your own mind. It doesn't tell yourself, oh, they think it's okay, then I can accept myself. No, it's an internal thing. You have to accept it. And then I went off to college and decided, it was still okay. But then I started thinking for myself. And I told myself, and I agreed with myself, it was okay, rather than someone saying, it was. And, it took a long time to understand that you have to understand even the closest people can hurt you. Even the closest person to you can hurt you. And you know what? That supplies more of the product of who you are right now. That shows you more of just exactly what you might be thinking at the time. I accepted myself at the time. Never did I think of it as going to be a good thing. I always thought about how everyone else was going to react to it, how they were going to be okay with it, and if they were going to be okay with it or if they weren't going to be okay with it, which was the bigger fear. When people are unsure or they can't accept something, they usually fear it. And it's never a good thing to fear yourself. You should never fear yourself. And if you do, you need to get your help. I sought it out with my depression. I got therapy finally. After years, my mother trying to convince me to do it, I finally went on my own accord and got therapy. And just having someone to talk to. They don't even have to respond back, but just having someone to listen and be able to get that frustration out helps so much, because that helps you in the path of getting better. And getting better is the whole process and the whole point of even going through any type of journey or quest or, Pathfinder or MapQuest or, whatever. But, I mean, people talk about the beginning and the end result, and they need to talk about the path. I never understood myself until now. I really didn't. I always thought there was something weird or that it wasn't normal to, even though I said it was fine. I would try to always understand, why did I do this or why did I do that? And eventually, you just stop asking yourself these questions. And you must die a little bit on the inside. And then you do something, or you have an experience that pushes you over an edge, and you understand. It can be very, very, very strange. I mean, it's a very strange experience because I didn't have it until this past summer. And then I suddenly realized that I don't give a fuck. I really don't. I don't give a fuck of what people think or people accept me, and that what's important is that I'm happy and then I'm going to get better and that I know I can accept who I am. The fact that, someone else disagrees with it doesn't even bother me anymore because I know I'm happy with who I am and I have a fantastic relationship right now. And you know what? It's no one else's business. They don't need to know the details about it because we're both happy. And being happy was something I never thought I would ever be. I really didn't, but getting the chance to look back at everything and seeing how things are, you realize it does get better. Each step you take on that gray path is a step towards getting better. Even if you have to take a step backwards, it still gets better because you realize that through all that pain and trouble that you have, you get to your end point that people talk about. You get to your end point. But the best thing about getting to that end point is you realize that you can still go further. And that as an individual, you can still change. And that society isn't chiseled into this giant stone of traditional values and looks because it's always changing. And the people who go beyond that end point are the people who change and how they change society. And those people need to know that it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to question, and that it's okay not to like yourself for a little bit. Because sometimes you have to learn how to like yourself. It gets better, I promise. It really does. I'm 21 and I'm only now understanding that. From the time I was 13 to 21, it's a long journey. And it's a long, long time to have different things impacting you. And to understand that there's always some place further to go or some place to get help is something that needs to occur. It does get better. It does.